So, as you may have guessed, this is not my usual living room. In fact, it is the 8th of January and 2:45, it seems. And although, as much as I'd love this living room to be mine instead of the one I've got at the moment, especially with this view of the church just behind me, I'm actually in another city entirely. The plan is more still up in the air, so I have a few things planned, but not exactly a lot. And I'm just going to enjoy the break before we all, at least us here in Russia, go back to work on Monday. But I will document some clips along the way, and hopefully in the process there will be a good chance to show you some interesting things which I won't usually get the chance to see, and also just talk about New Year things which will be appropriate given that I just released a podcast on New Year mindset and the principles that you should apply to New Year's resolutions and so on and so forth. So let's leave that there and let's go straight to the next clip. In terms of Russian cities, Ekaterinburg is pretty decent. So you have a walkway, big shopping centres which are pretty nice. This one in particular is pretty nice. So of course we went inside. The shopping centres are also quite impressive in Russia. Scales are quite big as usual. Next we went to Gold Apple, Selfridges with supermodels. And here you see me just eyeing up what she is buying. I think she picks up a Dolce & Gabbana selection, but it's not that good. Anyway, so usually I take a trip round through these places, spray something, walk outside, and at this time it started to snow in fact. So it looked pretty aesthetic. It's called Passage, and here you can see we get some light shots of it. Of course, as always, there's always a statue to Lenin somewhere. This one is right in the centre next to City Hall, next to the Christmas tree when that was there. There's usually some monuments to other people as well, next to museums, usually with bright colours like that one was, and of course big cathedrals. One thing that I absolutely love to do is to eat well. So we found this steak diner restaurant thing, pretty rustic aesthetic, but the food and the steak was pretty fantastic. Price is what you'd expect, and it's probably the only time where I would indulge with all that type of stuff. Not just on that day, but the next morning. Here you see like a coffee and a smoothie and a bruschetta. Pretty standard for me. This is what the city looks like in general. This is the main road. The snow has not yet melted, alas, but nevertheless, trams and so on work a little bit better than they do back in Chelyabinsk. And the atmosphere of the place just feels slightly more modern, and though physically looks similar for the uninitiated, there is a bit of a difference. This city hall, like I mentioned before, is a pretty impressive building. It looks like a university, and it's opposite the monuments, which we've already seen, and it's just a nice area to walk through, and I imagine that it's actually pretty lovely during the summer, because it's pretty nice during the winter, even though I am myself not the most wintry person. Another reason Ekaterinburg is pretty popular in this region is because of IKEA. There is no IKEA or such similar place that I know of back in the city, so if I want new furniture, new accessories, anything which I think is actually going to be useful, then I come to this place because there's always something to pick up. And here I'm just showing you some kitchen aesthetics which I feel like are my vibe, so to speak. This emerald green is pretty British, for example. This is a pestle and mortar, by the way. Most people don't know and forget what this is called because it is a strange object, but it's called a pestle and mortar, used for grinding down your own pastes and so on. Some more kitchen aesthetics. This, by the way, is called a tenderizer, which is used for tenderizing meat. That is to make meat more tender. This pretty commonly used object. Next to this we have a ladle, used for all sorts of things, and this is called a ricer, used for making mashed potato even finer than it already is. So my general impressions of the city are pretty positive. I think I did like it even more in the summer, so who knows, maybe I'll go and see it then.